Welcome to Friday Night Semites, where we actually know what a Semite is. Do you know what a Semite is, Josh?
A little bit. I do know that that's the question that everyone's been asking me since I told them the title of this show.
Yeah. So what do you tell them?
I tell them I'm going to ask my co-host, Sammy Obeyed. So, yeah, I mean, most people think Semite, they think Jew, but I know it's a little bit broader than that. So why don't you tell us what you know?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I'm a math guy, right? So
Obviously.
whenever I used to hear Semite or anti-Semite, I would be like, are these people against semicircles or what is it?
Oh, God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Semite, it comes from it has the same root as semi, which is like partial.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we have partial information on this situation.
So this is what I know of
Yeah.
the history, and I know you can break it down for me. So I know that the term Semite started in the 1800s.
It was in the 1700s, actually.
Thank you for the math
Yeah.
correction. All right, obviously we got a fact checker here.
Partial information.
There it is.
Yeah.
So it started in the 1700s, and like
By a German linguist.
Yeah, which is
so
always
you can
a good
already
place to
see,
start.
Yeah, where the problem started here.
he was trying to break up different linguistic groups, and like a good racist German, which is my favorite kind.
You said it, not me.
Yeah. For sure, I said it. He broke it down into there was the Aryan languages. And then there was the Aryan languages was like Northern and Western Europe, of course. There was the Hamite languages, which was like North African, and then there was the Semitic languages.
I'm glad they separated the ham from the Semitics.
Got to keep it kosher. So, and so the Semitic languages, I know it was Hebrew, but also Arabic, also shout out to Aramaic, Amharic, a lot of other ones. And so I know that that's where Semitic comes from. But then because it was Germany in the 1700s, they were mostly talking about the Jews for the Semites. And so that's why anti-Semite mostly came.
You jumped
Jews.
some steps,
All right,
but
break it down.
yeah. Okay, so 1700s, the guy was like, all right, Semites, this is how we distinguish the different races based on their languages.
Yep.
Specifically, they wanted to distinguish other races from the Aryan race.
Always.
They said, listen, we're from Aryan heritage. This is something else.
Yeah.
Okay. The Semites, like you said, included those languages. The main two, obviously, being Hebrew and Arabic. Those are the ones that most people speak. I mean, Aramaic was a thing. It wasn't really huge at that time.
Yeah.
Like, unless you know Jesus directly, it's not really about.
Shout out to my Assyrians.
Yeah.
A couple still out there.
Yeah, and then of course a lot of people. There's some Ethiopian people who speak Semitic languages as well.
Just a couple.
Right. So that was his distinction, and so that was like subtle racism. It was like, let's distinguish, let's classify, right? The problem started in the 1800s when a French scholar published a paper that flat out said the Aryan races are better than the Semitic races.
Yeah, that was usually what they used to say.
Yeah,
sometimes still
But he
do.
was published. I mean, like, racism back in the day was
legit.
It was accredited.
Yeah.
So he says that. He says Semitic. He said in every way, Semitic is inferior to Aryan.
So then, how did Semitic only get to be today thought about with Jews?
So at the time, again, he was just talking about all Semitic peoples, right? At this time, the racism was there, but it was all inclusive.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was inclusive racism. So he publishes that. An Austrian scholar, a Jewish Austrian scholar, saw that paper and was like, hey guys, does anybody notice that's a little racist?
Yeah.
And so he coins the term anti-Semite, an Austrian version of it. I think it's like anti-Semitish or something. I don't speak Austrian.
Me either, but that was close enough.
It was pretty good. I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I just think of like Arnold, like anti-Semites, like.
I think of Arnold when I think of anti-Semites too, and his father.
Yeah. So in Austria, a Jewish scholar says he makes this term basically the root which eventually becomes anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is what you call somebody who hates the Semitic races, whether it's people who speak Hebrew, people who speak Arabic, whatever, all of the Semitic races. He coins that term. The Germans hear that. They hear, because he publishes that.
Right.
He's like, from here on out, anybody who hates the Semitic races will be called anti-Semitic. And the Germans are like, yeah, I like that.
There's a name for our type of hate.
Yeah.
We want a name for it.
Yeah, you're like, finally, somebody who makes this sound professional.
Yeah.
You know? And so the Germans, specifically the Nazis, as time went on and the Nazis came about, they started to self-identify as anti-Semitic because, yeah, it made their hate sound more professional. And at that time in Nazi Germany, from late 1800s through early 1900s, that movement developed as specific hatred towards the Jews.
Right.
And so they applied.
I've heard of that.
If you've heard of this
I've
one.
heard of that one. Yeah.
I've heard, yeah.
I've heard a couple things.
So they started to use the term anti-Semitic in regards to specifically hatred towards the Jews. They popularized that term by self-identifying, and so the term became popularized by the Nazis as anti-Semitic means hatred towards the Jews.
So it's a racist term.
It's a racist term to start.
And then it became more specific in its racism.
Spread and popularized by even more racism.
And then it started out being anti-Jewish and anti-Arab hate,
Yes.
and then got named as just anti-Jewish hate.
Yeah.
And the anti-Arab or the Arab solidarity, all that got left out.
Right.
So it's a racist term that became exclusionary, even double racist.
It became double racist.
So basically what you're saying is we need to go back to the more inclusionary form of racism.
At least go back to inclusionary racist.
Semitic.
Anti-Semitic is only getting part of the situation. It's semi-Semitic.
And that's why we're here on Friday Night Semites, to make sure that everybody's exclusionary racism becomes a little more cross-pollinated, intersectional, if you will.